Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Tri Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Welcome back to another edition of Tri Beginner's Luck. We're moving and grooving, still talking about recovery and rest, although the last two episodes, I've completely forgotten about it, but somehow it's come up in the conversation. So that's when I know that everything is truly meant to be. Well, the guests that I have coming up next, they are very, very dear to me. We've been trying to make this work for a couple of months now. Once we get into the meat of the interview, you will fully understand why it was probably so challenging, but yet it's going to be so worth it. Just want to put this out there that we are both in remote locations. I am in Georgia and they are somewhere in a museum in DC. Now, granted, it's not ideal circumstances to record a podcast like this, especially for me, because I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to my surroundings and recording the podcast. Like I need everything just right. So I'm feeling a little uncomfortable while I'm in Georgia because I don't have my regular equipment. But what this tells me and teaches me, and it's an object lesson for us all, is we have to be adaptable, especially in the sport of triathlon. Sometimes you go to a race and you're expecting one condition and it's the complete opposite. And so being adaptable, flexible, and moldable helps us to race the race that we are given and not the race that we want. Which, let me be clear, I like perfect conditions and pristine conditions, but the reality of that isn't always the case. Needless to say, let me get right into the introduction from my guest. I met these two amazing people. I feel like it might have been 2018 through a random occurrence. I got to tell the story, right? So I went bike riding one day and I was still scared to clip in. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever said this. Oh, okay. I was scared to clip in and was supposed to wear a particular jersey, but I didn't wear that jersey because I was like, I don't want to wear it. Lo and behold, got on the Anacostia Trail. I was changing out of my shoes, from my tennis shoes to my cleats, and I saw a young lady named Dina who had on the very jersey that I was going to wear. We took the same path, and I was like, this girl looks like she's training for a triathlon, but I didn't know. I kept following her to see like, well, where is she going? And we did the same route. And finally, we stopped and talked and found out that we were doing the same race coming up, which was Colonial Beach. Fast forward, she was like, so how are you getting to Colonial Beach? I was like, yeah, I'm going to go up the morning of. She was like, oh, okay. I got a phone call. And at the time I was dating this guy. We were on a date and she was like, you need to come down to Colonial Beach right now. And I was like, okay, why? She was like, because my housemates say that you can stay in our hotel or in our Airbnb. I was like, okay, I think that's a smart move because I don't want to have to wake up and be all cranky before race day. So I go down to stay with these people who I do not know. Story of Mashonda's life, just to let you know. Well, anyway, who would know that they would become quick and fast, not friends, but more so family. And the story continues to go. We have been on a ride. In 2021, when I feel like all hell was breaking loose, they took me into their home. And they have really been the catalyst for me taking the sport of triathlon more seriously. I was a casual one race a year until 2018. And from then on, I started doing multiple races. The last couple of years, I've had a unique, it's been like really not so great. But I think that's the part about racing that's beautiful. If you only have beautiful races 100% of the time, are you truly racing? Are you truly growing? And so this couple has been with me through some of my high highs and the lows of lows. And I am grateful to call them my family, friends, all of the above. Welcome to amazing, dynamic, phenomenal athletes to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast. Raymond Ray Lake, known as the mayor, and Roseanne Zan Larsen, known as Coach Zan. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, guys. How y'all doing?
Did it work?
All right. Sorry, a little bit of trial and error. Like she said, we're in a remote location, which wasn't the plan. So apologies for that. Thanks for the flexibility.
Yeah, thank you so much for that was an amazing introduction. And you captured our history, our collective history perfectly. Thank you for doing that. And we're so honored and happy to be on the podcast this evening. So thanks for inviting us.
So do you want a self intro, or what would you like, Mashonda?
Hold on. This is so funny because I'm getting the polished version of like Ray and Zan, and I'm like, I just want y'all to be like my people. Which, you know how we're like chopping it up and doing all the things. What's up?
Okay, fine.
In all seriousness, no, you guys, and I can say so much more, but I was like, well, how do I wrap this up in a nice, beautiful like package to really say the essence of who you are? Because I can't say that I knew much about the sport beyond the basics until I met y'all. And let me tell y'all, when I got into their home on Colonial Beach, they were doing all this stuff, prepping food and eating a certain type of way. And I was like, wait a minute, what is happening? I was so green. Like there was a certain formula to the meal. It was the chicken, the small veggie, the avocado, it was just, they were doing like pre-workouts. Like I didn't know any of this. And so you guys opened me up to the possibilities of what could be when you really invest more into the sport. And so I want to just jump in and chat to see, you guys are so community focused. Like community is a big part of who you all are as individuals and as a couple. So can you speak to why are you so open arms and just you probably don't let any and everybody in, but you're just so generous with your community?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we wouldn't know each other if we hadn't both been that way in life. So the sport of triathlon actually brought us together. We were both working at Embassy Islamabad in Pakistan. And I was training for my first 70.3 out there. And we were only allowed to bike or run on a very specific course. And it was about a 5-mile course. So if you're training for, a 70.3, and I think that same year I had my first century bike race. So I actually needed to be training for 100 miles on the bike. And it was just a 5-mile course. And you could only train on that course. And you also had to be with at least one other person. You had to stay within sight and sound of each other the entire time. Yeah. So if you wanted to get meaningful training in where you're actually going the pace that you intended to go for your race and actually being able to increase your pace, week over week, month over month, you had to find somebody who could stay within sight and sound of you and was willing to do the distance that you were going to do. Yeah. And so enter the lovely Raymond Lake. And this crazy man was willing to do that with me. Yep. And so we would do 20 loops oftentimes on a Saturday around, this small embassy compound. Yeah. And there was a lot of loops, a lot of monotony, but it was a lot of fun. And I guess it formed like the beginning really of our friendship. Yeah. And it taught us the value of community because we literally would not have been able to train for races if it wasn't for the community around us, right? So there was a community run every, like 3 or 4 days a week. Yeah. A long bike ride every Saturday morning. And even the ambassador at the time would bike with us, but he's also nice enough to open up his personal pool at the embassy compound so that other people, not just us, but everybody on the embassy compound could swim his lap lane. Yeah. So it really was a community effort. So when you talk about community, we're all about that. And I think the other part that, it was community found from necessity But then what also taught me was that if someone is into endurance sports, whether that's triathlon or endurance biking or endurance running, or some combination, right? They're probably going to be the kind of people I want to hang out with anyway. And they ended up being my closest friends. And so then coming home from that, that really cemented, my attitude of wanting to continue to build that community and be open to that, back home in DC, even though it was no longer a necessity. I'm no longer required to only train on a 5-mile loop and only with one other person in sight and sound, right? But still I seek out, like-minded people who are wanting to push themselves and live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And to see like, what can I do next? How can I do marginal improvements year over year? Because the kind of person who asks themselves that question and makes those life choices is the kind of person who I also want to crack a beer open with at the end of the race and, have wine with on a Saturday in the middle of February when it's freezing cold outside, and to just talk about life because we probably have pretty similar priorities.
Yeah.
It's not a guaranteed filter on life, but I think it's a pretty reliable signaling device of who I want to be friends with and hang out with. So that's why community for us is so important. It makes the things that we think are important possible, and you find other people who find those things important as well, and get to enjoy them together.
That makes so much sense. And I appreciate that even though you have this community that you formed, you don't segregate your community. You all are constantly mixing communities together despite how you may know the person. Does that get confusing sometimes? And do you feel like your friends who may not be athletes have an issue with those that are athletes because they're always talking about quote unquote triathlon? Because you guys really do have an extensive, broad community. How do you navigate that without isolating or segregating friends, but you guys are constantly bringing people together?
Yeah.
You want to take?
You're right. You're absolutely right. We have a pretty diverse friend group and family group that we bring people together. We have these weekly dinners. You've come to some of our weekly dinners, and we have folks from all different walks of life and from different backgrounds, different locations in America. I mean, look, DC is a big melting pot. Everybody's from someplace else, right? We're all transplants. I'm from Texas, Zan's from Utah. We got friends from Arkansas, Alabama, you name it. So we don't go out of our way to exclude people, and we don't go out of our way to include people. We just have the people we enjoy hanging out with. But what's interesting is when we do get together, we're cognizant of the fact that we shouldn't necessarily just talk about triathlon, although it does. Maybe our wall of bikes, if the wall of bikes usually brings it up, brings up triathlon. So we talk to people generally about that. And I think the all-inclusive thing here is that most of our friends, and I think most people that we hang out with, like to be somewhat physically fit. Somebody wants to get outside, hike, or walk their dogs. We've got a lot of dog community people.
We have a lot of lifters.
I've got a lot of lifters. We got a lot of power lifters. We got people who do sailboat or sail. And so whatever our people, our collective tribe is into, I will say tribe, whatever our tribe is into, we're all about that too, supporting them. And if there's an intersection between triathlon and what they enjoy doing, then that's great. But if not, that's fine too. We like to talk about it. And at some point, there's some type of intersection of like just getting outside and being healthy.
I would say it's like passion and curiosity.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
No matter what it is that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
But that you're also curious, both about your own passions and the passions of others.
Yeah.
Is what's common, the common thread that holds our community together.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of variety in what people's passions are, but everyone is curious about each other's life passions. And like a good example of this is like one of my biggest cheerleaders who also like would never, ever, ever get caught dead in a triathlon. She would never, ever do it, is Liz. And you've met Liz. And she is a power lifter, right? That is her jam.
That's her jam.
And I mean, she could squat me, right? Like my entire body weight. And,
Easily.
And she's like 5'6". I'm 6 foot tall. She's maybe 130 pounds, but it's like pure muscle. And that's her thing. But she can quote triathlon stats, and she always knows what my like ranking is. She knows like what my performance at a race needs to be in order to like improve in my ranking or to qualify for worlds. And she tracks that stuff as like religiously, like sometimes better than I do for myself. And she will like remind me during my race season about like fueling healthy, right? Like, because she is curious and passionate about what my passions are. And she supports me as a friend. And I think that that's the most important part about community. It doesn't have to be that everyone is interested in the exact same thing as you. You don't have to only make friends with triathletes, but find somebody who will support your passion, be curious about your passion, and be your cheerleader.
That's solid advice. And I think that's easier said than not, right? Like all friends don't need to do that to that extent in that level. Like Liz is a unique person. And I'm thinking about my friend group outside of triathlon. I'm like, yeah, they're like, we love you, but that's really not our jam. You know what I mean? Like in reality thinking, but I think if you can find people who are like that, yes, that is amazing, who are going to come out to races and support you in 90-degree weather, no surround, no shelter, no shade or anything. Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. Who's going to wake up early in the morning? Yes, that is great. But realistically, that's a gym. And not that your friends aren't gyms, but that's a rare gym. We'll call it we'll call this a rare gym.
Absolutely.
When you talk about this intersection, and you mentioned rankings, I want to talk about that, and then I want to go backwards to your first races. You and Ray don't just compete, but you guys compete. Like, real talk, you all are the people who introduced me truly to USA Triathlon, the organization and the foundation, and understanding that there was even a thing of like rankings, and I wasn't privy to that information prior, which I think is some of the impetus why it's so important for me to have this platform for beginners, because just because you're on a team doesn't mean that team is focused on USA Triathlon's rankings or stats or going to nationals or being involved in being a part of Team USA. And I think that that's just another aspect that only enhances the sport and makes it more appealing, because there's so many avenues that you can do outside of the main premier avenue. I think that people often see because of the visibility of the brand, which is the Ironman brand. But really, there's so many ways to do even the longest distance with USA Triathlon and go to Worlds and compete on an international platform that people just don't know. So let's talk about that, because you guys have qualified for Worlds, I think a little bit over maybe 3 or more times.
4.
Okay, so 4 times. Let's talk about that, because you've done it together, you've competed together, you've made the team together. So let's talk about the Team USA experience and ranking and all the things, and however you want to talk about it, because it's so much.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, the Team USA experience is extremely exciting, and it is an honor.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing honor and privilege to be to achieve that honor and to be asked to be part of Team USA in any fashion. You know, there's duathlon, there's long distance tri, there's Olympics, there's all the multi-sport ecosystem. And I love what you said, Mashonda, about the fact that most triathletes, I shouldn't say most, but there's a subsection of triathletes in America and throughout the world that focus on the Ironman brand and getting a cone which is an amazing thing. And now, of course, Nice. And not taking anything away from Ironman, but it is one avenue to get to that sort of
International platform.
premier international platform, right? But I would argue that Team USA and racing as a member of Team USA specifically here in the US is an amazing opportunity, and one I think a lot of triathletes should aim for. And it is attainable over time because USAT has focused on the multi-sport facet. They've opened up so many different races. And if running is not necessarily your thing, there's the duathlons. And if swimming's not your thing, then there's duathlons as well. And there's the aqua bike. So there's all these different events that will cater to specific groups of people. Now, having said that, when you do make Team USA, it is kind of daunting. I was like, whoa, I'm on Team USA. I'm going to be wearing the red, white, and blue in front of the world stage. You need to perform. So it does add a bit of spiciness to your training and to your preparation. And what's great is to have a partner who also qualifies the same years as you do, and you can kind of train together and bounce those plans off of each other. And of course, attending Team USA events overseas is amazing, and going to the World Championships, ITU events. ITU is amazing.
World Triathlon.
World Triathlon is amazing. The great people, but I would say that Team USA is an amazing opportunity, and
I'm first of all, like, I think the most important part is you don't need to be a pro triathlete to be able to compete on an international stage, and that was a big aha moment for me because I'm never going to be a pro. Right? That's not my life path, and that's okay. Right? But to be able to know that I have the ability to compete in my age group internationally because I have competed well enough at a national level to be able to represent my country at a world championship was such an amazing goal to work towards, and then such an amazing feeling to achieve. And, you talk about community. We now, we've got friends internationally as well that we've met at world championships. And I also have a good friend from grad school who's German, and, I talked her into doing her first triathlon back in 2015. And then she happened to meet her now husband through the sport of triathlon. And the two of them, they came to cheer us on the first time we went to World Championships, which happened to be in the Netherlands. And while we were there, they were like, oh, we really wish we could compete for Team Germany, for Team Deutschland. And we're like, well, why don't you look into what the rules are and figure out how you qualify? And sure enough, the very next year, they were representing Team Germany. And we were representing Team USA on the same race course. And it just, it's such a cool experience. So, I would just say, don't feel like you can't get there, because there is a race category for everyone, and that you can, focus on and build towards and figure out how to do it. And,
absolutely.
I would just say it's such an amazing experience to be able to know you're representing, your age group for your country, and the energy at the races is just so unique. And it's I would strongly endorse trying to get onto your national team to go to world championships. It's really cool.
I love that. I really I think that's such a cool intersection in how your friend from grad school came to see you race, and as a result wanted to get into sport, and then the next year represents Team Germany while you guys are representing Team USA. That is what this sport is truly about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the essence of it. And
absolutely,
whether you have friends who will come and support you or not at races, I encourage you to get them to come, even if it's a shorter distance, so they can feel the essence of the race. And perhaps even invite them to do, if they're athletically inclined and they can swim, bike, and or run, invite them to a relay. Because relays are such a great way to get the introduction into the sport. So backing up a little bit, because you guys have done some really cool races, and I know we have a little bit of time, and I'm feeling pressured. I just want y'all to know I'm feeling pressured, and I'm like,
It's all good. It's all good.
But let's go back and talk about your first race
Okay.
First
Now-
triathlon ever.
ever.
Yeah,
Because I think it's important to set that baseline before we get into all of your accomplishments.
Okay.
Well, I will tell you that I did everything wrong on my first race.
Well, let's get into it. Let's hear what Zanimal did to do everything wrong on her first race, because she's
So
pretty
I did
darn
not.
into it.
What was your first
Oh,
race?
well, my first race was in California. I can't remember the name of the race. It's a locally organized race. But we signed up for that one because so my brother-in-law and I were at grad school together. He was doing his PhD, I was doing my master's degree. We had been in high school swim team together, a decade earlier, right? And when we were in high school swim team, we were fit and healthy and yada yada. And then now, fast forward a decade later, we were both in grad school, drinking too much beer, staying up too late studying. And we would go swimming together, but like our swim times were pretty embarrassing. And just like, our physical fitness was not where we were used to having it be. And so, of course, at a bar while we're studying on our third beer, we're like, we really should do something about this physical fitness thing. Yup, beer. And so someone at the bar suggested that we should sign up for a triathlon. And we're like, yes, but only after graduation. And so we signed up. We were both going to graduate at the same time. We signed up for a triathlon that was going to occur 3 months after graduation, because we're like, surely 3 months is enough time to train for a triathlon. I mean, yeah, no big deal, right? And so we both signed up for an Olympic distance triathlon.
Mhm.
And then he, after graduation, promptly moved out to California, which is why we signed up for one in California. And I promptly moved to DC. He joined a triathlon club that had 2 coaches, and he went through a new triathlete program. And as part of that program, he did a sprint tri. So when he got to the start line at the Olympic triathlon at the end of the summer, he was very prepared. I did none of those things. I did not join a team. I did not join a club. I did not get a coach. I didn't even download any sort of plan from the internet. I just was like, I can figure this out. I can train on my own. And didn't do a sprint triathlon, did nothing, showed up at the start line, completely green. I believe, went into the outhouse, or whatever you call it, porta potty, to change clothes in between the swim and the bike, and then between the bike and the run. And on the run, I got a horrible cramp, and was like just limping at mile 3. It's like halfway point, maybe. I did make it across the finish line miraculously. And when I returned to DC, I had the taste of triathlon, and I wanted to do it for forever.
That tasted blood. That was blood. She was tasting blood.
And and signed up for the DC Tri Club and the new triathlete program, because I'm like, I am still a new triathlete. That was a horrible experience. And then fast forward 12 years later, and I'm still racing, and I love it.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, did everything wrong.
Yeah.
You right?
My I don't know if I want to follow that. That's pretty amazing. My first foray into triathlon was a byproduct of being in U.S. Army Special Forces. One of the guys on my team, Guy Lemire, who's out there, he's probably watching this right now. Guy Lemire was a very accomplished triathlete. He had done at least 24 triathlons before I met him. Amazing runner, amazing cyclist, amazing swimmer from California. He said, "Hey, you're a great swimmer. You're a pretty good runner. Have you ever thought about doing a triathlon?" To which I responded, "No, I don't own a bike. I'm not a big cyclist. I don't even know where to begin." So Guy Lemire coached me for about 6 months. I got better at running. I got better at swimming, and I got fairly good at riding a bike. I bought my first tri bike, which back then was a lot of money for a guy in the Army. I think I paid $1,500 for it, and that was like the most expensive thing I'd ever bought in my life besides a car. And we trained together, and you really need that good coach mentor in Guy Lemire. I owe Guy Lemire triathlon lifestyle, because he's the guy that got me started, and he kept me fired up about it for many years, even after I got out of the sport for a while. The first race I did was the Fort Lewis Triathlon series. It was a triathlon duathlon series at Fort Lewis, Washington, right outside of Tacoma. Most of the races were sprints. There were some Olympics. My first was a sprint. I decided I didn't need a wetsuit because I was a tough guy. I was a military diver. I didn't need a wetsuit. And so I froze. I was swimming in a Washington State reservoir, which was about 70 degrees, which is pretty cold. It's not that cold, but it's pretty cold. No wetsuit. I did horribly because I wasn't trained to swim without a wetsuit for long distances, which was only 750, but for me, that was pretty far. I got out, I got on my bike, and I got a flat about a mile in. I wasn't very good at changing flats. It took me about 3 or 4 minutes to change my flat. And then I rode the rest of the race pretty well. I cramped because I didn't know about pacing yourself. So I was like all out.
Or
everything.
fuel, or
I had no fuel. I had no fuel. What's fuel? Don't need fuel. It's so short.
I think the entire race.
So
My first race.
I did not fuel. I didn't need anything. So I cramped about mile 5 or 6. It was only like a 7 or 8 minute mile race. So on the way back, I cramped. I think getting off the bike and fixing the flat did that. I got back, and then I had an amazing run because that was my foundation go-to. Had an amazing run, and I finished like, I don't know, like 11th place or something. So that was my first ever race, but I was hooked because I was like, that sucked, and I didn't do that well, and I want to do better next time.
Yeah.
So that's really what drove me to it. But thank you, Guy Lemire. And just so you know, like Zan, my first race did not go well. It did not go the way I thought it was going to go, but it was still amazing. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Ray, I just want you to know we are recording this, so Guy Lemire can't technically be watching us right now, but he can watch us later.
Okay.
Just kidding.
I'm gonna have to get an advance copy from you and like send it to him.
Yeah, you would have to do that. I love that. So your first races seem to be very extreme. I don't know if these were like formulated, like we're going on Mashana show, we have to make them extreme because you guys are completely different athletes now.
Yes.
Like, yes. Completely different athletes. When did that shift happen?
I would say for me, it happened within a year and a half after that first race. So the new triathlete program gave me a lot of skills, but what it really did for me was it gave me the language that I needed to be able to then start doing self-education, and to like further my own knowledge about the sport and about how to train smart for it. And I'm a bit of a nerd, and so I always like to investigate things on my own. And so like I will like go into like a deep Google search, like usually on like the National Institutes of Health, NIH website, where I'm like reading like peer-reviewed studies to actually find out the science behind something. Like, so I'll read something like in Runner's World or in Triathlete magazine, and I'm like, that doesn't quite track with what I've understood. And then I'll like dive into like what the peer-reviewed research is on it. And from there I've just really kind of continued to try to be a lifelong learner on it. Ended up, taking a course to be certified as a personal trainer, as a spin instructor, just kind of really, have taken a nutrition course, how I can better myself as an athlete and achieve the goals that I'm seeking to achieve.
Awesome. Yeah. Fast forward now. I mean, it's been 30 years, I think, coming up on 30 years since I started racing. I'm very old. I'm in a much better place in terms of like understanding the holistic preparation of racing. I've got a better community now than I did when I was younger. I have tuned my diet pretty well for racing, my nutrition. And I understand that it's not about the one race. It's about the experience. It really is about the experience. And you said that in a post. You had a post a few weeks ago, I think, or maybe a week ago, where you mentioned something about you learn it's all about the journey and not necessarily the individual race. And I can't tell you how much that means to hear that from you, Mashonda, but it is exactly that. It is about each race being part of a bigger picture, a bigger tapestry of your racing career. And now I don't get caught up on a race or one training event. I'm like, I'm here to have a good time, and I'm going to do as well as I'm going to do. And I'm not going to hurt myself, and I'm not going to take myself too seriously. And I'm gonna have a good time do it. I'm going to look around because there's some amazing people I'm racing with, and look at the amazing community I have and the amazing views, and count myself lucky that I get to do this sport with such amazing people. That for me is a podium. That's a podium. Every time I finish, I'm on the podium because I get to race with people I love, and I get to race with people like you that I love, and friends. And that's really what matters to me. And that's where I'm at in my headspace now, 30 years later. But it took me probably like 20 years to learn that lesson, that it's not about getting on the podium. It's just about having a good time with the race.
Although it's also really nice to be on the podium.
It is nice to be on the podium. Okay. Yeah. It's nice to be on the podium, but I'd rather have the love and friendship.
So Ray, no shade. I did not know you've been doing this sport for 30 years.
It's okay. It's a long time. You think I'd be better. But
you are great. Like,
I'm good, but I'm not. For 30 years, I should be better.
So you guys, Ray has a very humble way of showcasing his talent. Y'all, last year he did Patagonia Man. Was it last year or the year before?
2 years ago. 2 December ago.
December 2022.
December 2022. Yep.
Not everybody can do Patagonia Man. Let me be very clear.
Because they're smart. They're not dumb like me. I paid a lot of money. To go freeze my butt off down in Patagonia. Yes, you're right.
Patagonia Man is the equivalent to a full triathlon distance.
Full
or
Ironman.
Some people will say an Iron distance. Mm-hmm. But in very harsh conditions.
Yeah, very harsh conditions. Frigid water. You need a thermal wetsuit. It's nighttime. You are swimming completely in the dark. You must have a buoy. It does require like naval support. We had Chilean Navy guiding us for safety. The bike is pretty much all uphill for 110 miles. They shortened the bike ride by 2 miles because they lengthened the run by 2 miles. So
you did 10,000 feet of elevation gain.
10,000 feet of elevation. And look, the X series of triathlons, the ultras are extremely difficult. That's why they're called extreme. And for me, it got me back to that raw roots that I remember. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was starting triathlon all over again in 2022 because it is just raw energy. And again, we talk about community and love and support. The lovely Zan Larsen came all the way down to Chile with me to be not only my race Sherpa, my coach, my nutritionist, but also my translator, my SAG vehicle driver. And yes, I used the SAG vehicle a few times because I was cramping and I broke my cleats. So it was an amazing get back to your roots.
And on the last 8 miles with you.
And she ran the last 8 miles with me, which was very
tiny a little bit compared to what you did.
But still, the big, amazing event. And I was very humbled and honored to do it. But a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. He's not just an athlete, but he's a beast.
Oh yeah.
and let me tell you, just to be clear, if you're racing with him, 9 times out of 10, he's going to be on someone's podium at a race.
Oh yeah.
Or finishing in top 10. I'm just putting it out there. You don't have to talk about yourself. I can brag on you. But I'm just saying that he is that. And Zan, don't let her sit back in her legs crossed like
no, she's always on the podium.
She's always on the podium as well, or finishing in top 10 in worlds or age group nationals. But listen, this group, they are definitely a power tri couple for sure. And what does it take to compete consistently at a very high level? Because you guys are very serious about your craft, very serious about the sport. You take everything very seriously, but you also have a lot of fun. So my 2 questions is, what does it take to consistently be at the top? And how do you find balance in being at the top and consistently being good?
Yeah, that's good. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you take that one. How do you stay so consistently good?
Well, I haven't always been consistently good, right? Like there's been setbacks. There was a year I didn't compete at all because of a surgery. And then the year coming back from surgery was a bumpy road.
Yep.
But I think how do you stay consistent? Maybe not consistently at the top, but how do you stay consistent is the question I'm going to answer instead. And I think the way that you stay consistent is staying in touch with your why, whether you want to call it your joy or your passion or your motivation. Like you need to have like a really strong why, why you're doing this, why you're getting up at the crack of dawn, day in and day out, and why you're passing up, the happy hour so you can get home to be able to get in bed early, right? Why you're, paying attention to what your macros are for fueling correctly, why you're watching your third, YouTube video about a race course so you understand and are prepped for the technical parts. Why you choose to spend your time doing these things, why you choose to educate yourself on how to do it well. If that why isn't strong enough, then you're not going to be able to be consistent. So finding your why, and if your why isn't strong enough for the sport of triathlon, then find it for another, endeavor in life, whether that's another sport or another, challenge or whatever it is. It gives you your why, your passion, your joy, your motivation. That's where you should be spending your time. And, we're just lucky that for us, both of us, our why, is pretty strong and pretty strong for the world of multi-sport, I would say, not just triathlon. And that we want to do that because it does bring us a lot of happiness in life. We truly have stupid grins on our face on mile 100 of a bike ride.
It's usually delirium.
Kind of delirium.
Yeah.
But it just brings us a lot of joy. And so it's easy to go to bed a little early and not, and pass on a little bit of extra social time or that last glass of wine because I know how much joy I'm going to get out of the reward at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything Zan said is very valid and absolutely correct. My why really is there are two reasons I race, and what I guess adds to my consistency and the fire that I have, the passion. And I think that's important to say right off the bat is you got to have passion for the sport. You got to love it. If you're doing it because you want to get on a podium or you're doing it because you want to be on Team USA, those are goals. But what's the passion? A lot of us have the need to test ourselves, and I think that's a great place to be. My two main priorities are to pay respect to a lot of my fallen comrades in the military who aren't here anymore. And I don't want to get down a line of that type of thinking or pity or anything, but there are a lot of veterans, guys that I serve with that were into triathlon or would just love to have the ability to do what I do when I'm doing triathlon, enjoy the sport. So I do it because they can't, and they don't have that opportunity anymore. So I do it to honor their legacy and their memory. And number two, I have an intrinsic with them. What's in it for me is I race also for the future me. I'm 53 years old now, and I race for the 63, the 73, and the 83-year-old Ray Lake, and for my family and friends, so that I will be healthy and viable and a good man and a good person for them when I'm older. And I know that triathlon is the vessel and the mode that I can get to that healthy lifestyle and maintain the healthy lifestyle. So I hope that makes sense.
Yes, no, it did. It did. So I have two more sections. And talking about the future you, we'll do this quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about rest and recovery and how that's important for you all in the sport. And then we'll go into rapid fire.
Okay. Rest and recovery, absolutely essential. Yeah, like work hard, play hard. I think that that's part of that balance and consistency. And it's not just about recovery for your body, right? Like obviously, like doing daily stretching, doing a full recovery day every week, if not 2 full recovery days every week. And by full recovery, I really do mean full recovery.
Yeah.
But it's also about recovery and rest for your mental and social and spiritual, finding still time to connect with friends who aren't in the sport.
Yeah.
Still connecting with family and still being able to excel in other areas of your life. And kind of doing that check-in with yourself. Like, am I being consistent and well balanced all around? So that, I can continue doing this sport, because if it overtakes everything else, then it also won't be sustainable.
Yeah.
So how do you be consistent and sustainable is balance.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, number one, we talk about rest and recovery, but really, I'm not afraid to take a complete step back away from the sport and close myself off from the sport of triathlon for a period. And that might be a week, 2 weeks, or a month. And I'm not saying I'm not training or thinking about triathlon, but it's going to take definitely a back seat. And I'm going to focus on art and meditation, quiet time, spending time with family.
Home repairs.
Right. I'm going to take a full
dogs,
holistic step away from the sport. And what it does is it gives me that good space away where I miss it. You come back and you're like, oh, I haven't ridden on a bike for like 2 weeks, or I haven't swam in 3 weeks. It feels so good. I missed it. And I think you need that. I think you definitely have to take those hard steps away from the sport. The other way that I like to detune from the sport is to educate myself. If I educate myself on little aspects of the sport, like the officials, like the rules and regulations of racing, and just other things about the sport that necessarily that I don't touch every day, that helps me recover too, because then I feel more attuned to the sport.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all so much. As we said earlier at the beginning, we are in very remote locations, and so time isn't on our side. However, we will fit in rapid fire.
All
so
right.
with that
Love
said, first question for rapid fire is favorite song.
Oh, Glorious.
Haha.
Today was a good day.
Okay. T1 or T2? What is your preference and why?
T2, because all I have to do is change my shoes.
T1, because I like to see how fast I can strip my sweatsuit off.
You would say that. Are you a transition minimalist, Goldilocks, where everything has to be just right, or kitchen sink quarter where you just bring it all?
I'm a Goldilocks, and it has to be perfect. I'm an OCD Goldilocks.
Okay. Minimalist, I don't need it.
Cool. Favorite place to bike? And
oh shoot,
Utah
probably.
Okay. Morning workout or afternoon workout?
Morning.
Swim, bike, run. Rank them in order of preference.
Bike, swim, run.
Run, bike, swim.
Awesome. Favorite triathlon distance?
It used to be the 70.3. Post surgery, it's become the Olympic distance. I'm hoping to get back to 70.3 as my favorite again.
Ultra 140. Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you so much, Ray. And before we go, I forgot the question that we always ask. Do you pee on the bike or get off and take a proper pee break?
Obviously, pee on the bike.
Pee on the bike like a champion.
Hey.
Let's go.
Multiple times.
I almost forgot because I'm like under pressure, and I heard the people on the intercom say they were closing.
Pee on the bike.
Pee on the bike. People, pee on the bike. It's okay. We all do it.
The important thing is wash your bike.
Yeah,
you
do bike maintenance. You
wash
clean it. Pee on it, clean it.
Wash
See, it's a cycle.
Yeah, I was going to get to that because Ray is like the mastermind of cleaning bikes and making sure the chrome is good.
Gotta go. We're getting
but thank you so much for being on the podcast. We do appreciate. Remember to like, share, or post this. And remember, in triathlons, anything can happen. You can be anywhere.
Yep.
And you might get kicked out of a museum, but at least you're here. So thank you so much.
All
All
right.
right, everybody. We thank you
All right.
so much. And we're
Love
so
you, Mashonda.
excited. Love you guys too. All
All
right.
right.
Have a good one, guys. So we're so excited to have them on. We're really grateful. And we have this saying at Try Beginner's Luck. Whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you truly always win. That's right. You always win. My name is Mashonda Miles, also known as Mashonda Shines. And we are out. Yeah, this was fast and furious, but we're done. We did it. All right. Peace, y'all. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you always win.